Hey everybody, welcome back to economics. This is chapter 4, the Aplia homework. So the first question is a little bit about movements along a demand curve versus shifts in the demand curve. This is really important when you're thinking about how prices and quantities change. So remember always, whenever you're thinking about it, the graph is price versus quantity. Thus, if price changes, you get a movement along the curve. If anything other than price changes, that's not explicitly on the graph, so that's a shift in the curve. So a change in something else means that the demand will change, quantity demanded will change no matter what price you're charging. So the bottom line is a price moves you along the curve, a change in anything else shifts the curve. So on this particular example, we have we're talking about the market demand for peanut butter. So what happens when the price of hazelnut spread, which is a substitute for peanut butter, decreases? So those two are substitutes. So that should imply to you that if hazelnut is cheaper, everybody's going to go buy more hazelnut spread. It doesn't matter what the price of peanut butter is, people are going to want less at every price. That's a shift in the demand curve for peanut butter. An increase in the income of consumers. Everybody's got a little bit more money to spend. So again, it doesn't matter what the price of peanut butter is, we want a little bit more of it because we have more money. That's a shift. A decrease in the price of peanut butter, that shows up directly on the graph. That's a movement along the curve. People buy a little bit more because the price went down. So again, a movement, if we get a change in price, we get a movement along the curve. If we get a change in anything other than price, we get a shift in the curve. Second question. The following graph shows the market for laptops in 2009. Between 2009 and 2010, the equilibrium quantity of laptops remained constant, but the equilibrium price of laptops increased. So what must have happened? This trying to think about what might have happened there. So if we do an increase in demand, a shift out in demand, like that, we get a new equilibrium. Price is higher, quantity is higher. Okay, that's not exactly what happened, right? The equilibrium quantity of laptops remained constant, but the equilibrium price of laptops increased. Well, what happened at the same time we had gotten an increase in supply? So an increase in supply all by itself moves you down here. So an increase in supply moves you to a new point where quantity is higher, but the price is lower. So if those two things happen at the same time, output goes up for sure, price goes in opposite directions. Still not what we're looking for in the case of this, because in the case of this one, the quantity or the equilibrium quantity remained constant. So there must have been actual opposite effects in equilibrium quantity. Price went up. So what happened if supply had actually dropped back at that same time? So if supply drops back, barring anything else, this point over here, we get a price increase and we get a quantity decrease. So if these two things happen at the same time, we get a price increase for sure. Price increase for sure, because both of them have that effect. And we don't know for sure what happens to quantity. It kind of depends on the relative sizes of the change. So if they're both about the same, then there won't be any effect on quantity. If the demand increase was bigger, then there will be an increase in quantity. If the supply increase was bigger or decrease is bigger, there will be a decrease in quantity. So that could be what happened here. So in this case, we could have had an increase in demand that led to a price increase and a quantity increase. And if we had a very similarly sized decrease in supply, so all by itself the supply increase would have led to a price increase and a quantity decrease. But if both effects are roughly the same size, then we move from here to here, So from here up to here, nothing happened to equilibrium output, equilibrium price went up. So what happened for sure in that case depended on the size of the changes. So when you're thinking about what happens to equilibrium when you get shifts in supply and demand, you probably know for sure whether or not price increased or quantity increased, one of those two, and then the other one will be indeterminate. So you have to think about the relative sizes of the changes to find out for sure what would happen to the other one. And that is it for this chapter. So if you have any questions, send me an email.